Max, 30 years ago, South Africa's Eskom used to produce a map, and they would say Eskom powers South Africa, and it showed that South Africa as this bright beacon at the bottom end of a continent that was otherwise dark, and there were little patches of light in some capital cities dotted across the continent. Now, in our regular episodes of load shedding, South Africa goes fairly dark as well. But in a continent which has got a rapidly changing demography of lots and lots of young people, economically active young people with a huge opportunity set. Governments are going to be looking for stable energy. And I just wonder how you see this opportunity set playing out for the global energy industry to help bring some energy stability and security to this continent.
I think there are two steps here. Actually, is what we heard from Baftik, that we have an existing fleet, which probably needs some modernization, probably also some fuel shifting, coming from coal to gas as one major step also towards decarbonization. I think that is, keeping the existing infrastructure is somehow, from my perspective, very crucial, yeah, to avoid unnecessary investments here at points where you probably don't need it. But then look into the add-ons of renewable power and make them smart connected with certain storages to really feed into those really focal points or local points where you really have energy consumption available. So that you probably need to look at the whole energy system a bit differently, trying to add up power where it's also consumed, and try to also use the geographical advantages that some of the locations might have, and bring the power also via storages, also very smart transmission lines to those points where it's really required. I think those two steps, going into a fuel or coal to gas shift, is helping to somehow stabilize the system and then add up energy generation and also storage to those points where energy consumption is really needed.
And just talk to me about the technologies. Earlier, Ted Blom referred to the South Africa becoming the sort of hotbed of a technology war, and it sounds terribly exciting. But there is a huge amount of development happening in the evolution, and of course, the cost curve of so many of these solutions plummeting beautifully from a consumer perspective. Just tell me what it's looking like right now.
I think, and Ted also mentioned that point, we have an existing market already for batteries. Well, talking about batteries in households, in electric vehicles. So there's a lot of movement, I think, in the usage of the chemical power in the regards of the battery. So we also expect that there is a certain, spillover effects out of the electrical vehicle movements into the cost decrease for batteries. And I think that market is already there. In some parts of the world, it's just pending on regulations. So who is able to really run a storage? That is a general question that we need to tackle also with the regulators. Who is really capable to operate a storage? But other than that, I think the technology itself is available. The integrational part is available. So there's no doubt about it. We see that our partner here, Fluence, is selling batteries worldwide. You probably have seen Tesla, especially in Australia, already putting up some flagship projects there. So that market is there, and the technology is there to somehow address this market. Besides that, and Bruce, I think that is the topic that we also need to tackle is, okay, what is after batteries? Yeah. So looking also into longer term durations of discharging power, making somehow a baseload operation also available for the integration of renewables, talking about 24/7 availability of renewable power. There might be other technologies emerging. So we are looking at currently as the implication of thermal energy storages, just due to the fact that the way of how you save energy is very cheap. Yeah, just looking at solid materials, stones, concretes, all those materials are somehow are available, and you can store in a fair um, small area, you can store a lot of capacity, helping also to bridge that longer gap that might come up by the further on integration of renewable power. And I think that is somehow the way forward from my perspective, looking at the midterm. And then I think Ted also mentioned the point of hydrogen, which is from my topic then a real economic shift that we will see in future, that we're able to somehow really store surplus energy and make it available through pipelines, through transportation into the different sectors, and really use that kind of energy wherever it's required.
Let's talk about hydrogen in just a little while. Right now, we look at the battery technologies. We look at the huge metals dependency. And then certainly, I think there's a huge African opportunity in terms of providing the raw materials, the resources, Bhavtik, that go into so many of these storage devices. Typically, however, Africa, broadly, South Africa too, is very good at extracting minerals and then exporting those minerals, and the value add happens elsewhere. Is there an opportunity on this continent for extraction, exploitation, development, adding the value here for solutions here?
Bruce, absolutely. Look, I mean, I think certainly something that African governments, not just South Africa, but African governments should be looking at. I mean, we are blessed with an abundance of resources, but as you quite rightly point out, this is actually beneficiated. Manufactured products are actually produced elsewhere outside of South Africa or outside of the continent, right? So, what are the sort of key ingredients, that from a metals perspective currently on batteries? So the obvious one is obviously lithium-ion batteries. We look at lithium there, vanadium, obviously cobalt, right? So we know, as an example, Tesla have signed a big agreement with the DRC for the actual procurement of cobalt. It's actually one of the big trading houses, Glencore, for the production of batteries that they will be using in electric vehicles, right? So I think this is certainly something. I mean, we have a big issue in our country with regards to unemployment, a very high unemployment rate. Gradually, I think we've moved away from being a mining economy where lots of jobs are created. Mines have actually become now deeper, and obviously the cost of production on gold, etc., has actually gone up quite a lot. South Africa is not a low-cost producer of gold anymore. So we've got to look at other ways of actually stimulating our economy from a jobs perspective. Renewable energy has certainly been one, but one would argue generally during the construction phase, only this is really short-term jobs, 1-2 years for the duration of the construction. But on the mining side, right, so these metals that I've spoken about, whether it's lithium, whether it is cobalt, whether it is vanadium and other, this is certainly something that government should be looking at, not just mining them, but, providing the right incentives, right? So whether it is tax breaks, whether it is reliable energy supply, whether it is, special economic zones or whatever it is to actually, entice internationals to set up factories here, use our metals, produce the goods, create employment for our people, and then ship the completed or the finished product. So I think it's a great opportunity, but we need to fire on all cylinders for this to work. And I think we can do it. We have the ability. We've done it successfully on the motor industries development plan, in the auto sector. There's no reason why we can't replicate something along those lines for energy storage and battery metals.
Ted Blom, we heard the mines and the mineral resources and energy. He's got so many titles. Minister Gwede fairly recently announcing a new series of exploration licenses being granted for companies to go out and find battery minerals, if you like. I mean, they've even been called battery minerals nowadays. Is this the beginning of a new cycle, do you think?
Okay, so the alternative industrial minerals, which are mainly cobalt, and vanadium, and to a certain extent some of the lithium ions. There's lots of them in Africa, and certainly I see, certainly in the intermediate period, with battery technology wanting to fill the gap immediately, because people are familiar with batteries. You've got batteries in every car, in every cell phone. So people are familiar with battery technology, and I foresee tremendous developments under that area. but certainly not in South Africa. The mining charter is a major impediment to 100 years of growth in the mining industry. And many times in those last 100 years, South Africa was the leader in various categories of minerals exploitation and beneficiation. Those days are past. With this new mining charter demanding 50% or 51% BEE requirements, nobody can put, no organization anyway, can put shareholders' money into a project where from day one, you are the minority party. You're supplying all the capital, but you're not part of the decision-making process. I mean, just logically, that doesn't work. And from a fiduciary point of view, that's why you're seeing Anglo and all the other big mining houses, Billiton, disinvesting. Rio Tinto has already gone to a large extent. And the only one that's sort of sticking around for the moment is Glencore. And I have no doubt that if things carry on as they are, that even Glencore and the other people smaller players will close shop. You can't, it's not sustainable. You can't have, and the lack of exploration in South Africa for the last 20 years coincides 100% with the new mining charter. And that just, if that wasn't an alarm bell for the government and Minister Mantashe, whom I've known for a long time, then I don't think there's any wake-up call that's going to wake up this ANC with its populist strategies. Mining is over as far as this country is concerned, unless if there's a drastic wake-up call and the playing field is restored to what it was to make it amenable and exciting for mining companies to reinvest in South Africa.